Putting in an outlet, it's not difficult, it's not scary, it's really hard to screw up. There's no reason that you should have to call an electrician to go ahead and do this. It's really, really simple to do yourself. Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today, I came out to the garage. I was going to clean up a bunch of valve pieces on the wire wheel, but unfortunately, I've reorganized the garage recently to put in a new tool, and of course, I've got it already plugged into this sketchy trouble light here, which is not a good thing. It's, through several feet of wire and over to an outlet over there. And the next nearest outlet is over on the other side of that cabinet. So I actually have no way to plug in the bench grinder. And there's really no way to plug in this mill either. So I might as well take care of that right now. When I moved in, this garage had, I think, 2 outlets in it. So I ran conduit and I put a box up there and ran an outlet over here. But I was probably lazy and didn't put one here. I did put a box up there. So I'm going to tap off of there and probably put an outlet, I don't know, somewhere right around here. So I'm going to have to put 2 bends in a piece of conduit, which almost invariably I can screw up. But I have a pretty good width here where we can mount it. So that's what we're going to get started with. So here's a typical chunk of conduit. This is EMT. It's not very thick. It's galvanized on the outside so it doesn't rust. And they come in 10-foot sections, so you can see they're pretty long. They are also very inexpensive. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to be going from that box that's right up there, come down a little bit, over and down here. So I need, these 2 90s, but I've got pretty good distance here. So I'll probably come down, I don't know, maybe half. It doesn't really matter. There's nothing in the way. Then over, and then when I come down here, I've got, some space left to right so that if I'm off a bit when I make my bends, there's pretty forgiving. I'll try to shoot for the middle, and that way, if I bend it too short, I'm over here. If I bend it too long, I'm over here. But I should still be able to run down in here. So it looks like it's about 8 inches down and about 20 inches over. Another nice thing about this left to right distance here is if you look at this box, it's got 3 spots for knockouts on the bottom. And the great thing is all 3 are open up there. So if I'm off a little bit one direction, I can go here, here, or here. So I've got a lot of leeway. This would be a great first outlet for somebody to run because there's a whole lot of forgiveness for where we run stuff. You might be tempted at this point to mount this on the wall, and if you're good at bending conduit, no problem. Mount this and then go ahead and do your bends. In this case though, I'm going to get that piece of conduit bent first in case I need to shift it one direction or the other or up or down at all. If you're going to do conduit, you're going to need a conduit bender. They're kind of expensive, so if you don't have one, try to borrow one from a friend, especially if you're only doing just one outlet or something. The first bend is real easy. We know we want to come down 8 inches, so somewhere around there. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to bend it so that this comes up. Now, if I bend this, the bend is going to be way over here, so it's going to be sticking way more than 8 up. My mark's here, and so I want 90 degrees, which here's 60. It's a full bend on this. So I'm eyeballing about where 90 is going to be. And we're up about 7.5. So that's close enough for what I'm doing. I actually went past 90 degrees You can see here, I've gone more than 90, a little bit. So I'm just going to use the bender. And that looks pretty good. Now for the fun bend. I need to stay in the same plane so that it lays on the wall, doesn't stick out, and it needs to be about 19 from here to where the end of this next bend is. Even more fun, because it needs to go this direction, I need it to be effectively like this when I'm bending it, right? So we can put it on something like that. Then our mark is here. If I put that and it's straight down and I see the mark in the middle of that, that's where it's going to end up. Make sure this is straight up and down, straight line with the bender, and straight down through here to that mark. Looks like about 90. And our measurement puts it right at, we're at about 19.5 inches. So now to figure out the length that I'm going to need this direction here, I need to figure out where this lies, right? So if I measure here, to the bottom of this is roughly 8 inches, 7.5 inches. So I know from the ceiling to the bottom of the box is roughly 4.5. So that means over here, if I come down 4.5 for the box, and then 7.5 for that down to that bend, that is 12. I can get around all this crap. So if I want to put the box, say, right here, this is at 60, but I want to remove 12 for all of the stuff up above. So if I make it 48 inches long on this down, it's going to put my box right about here. So we come down here to 48 inches. And that's where I'm going to cut it. This is just mild steel, so they're real easy to cut. A hacksaw, you can go through it real quickly by hand, but I'm too lazy. This resulting end here tends to be sharp. A piece of sandpaper or emery cloth or a file or anything that you've got takes that off the outside. But important is to get this inside edge. You'll see my cut isn't terribly square. The nice thing is, you'll see when we go into the connector, it doesn't matter. Now we'll test fit this up on the wall. It's not really easy for me to climb up there with the camera and all the tools that I need, so I'm going to show you what I'm doing up on the wall, just on this box here. But basically, I'm going to climb up there. I'm going to knock one of these out. I'm going to put this through, put that on there. It tightens down, and you can see it's got all these teeth. You just use a screwdriver and smack it a few times to tighten it down. Make sure that this, which is a set screw that holds the conduit, is in a position that you can get to it. So I'm going to go up there and do that now. All right, you can see I've got that coupler put on here with the nut on the inside. And now I'm going to try to run this conduit into it and then tighten that set screw. There we go. So I got it in and I tightened this set screw all the way down. So we're going to end up running the wire down through here, but that's after we get the box on down below. All right, you can see that coming down there, that's a pretty ugly angle right here. So I can move this over this way to get it straighter. So we know we've got to put it in right here. Okay, so this is the procedure I used up above. We're going to put in one of these right here in this corner. So I just take a screwdriver, put it in there, tap it with a hammer. Sometimes you can just hit it with the palm of your hand and grab onto it with some side cutters. Comes right out. Take this nut off. Put that in. Seriously, they go on real easy when I'm not recording. And take this screwdriver and see, just put it right up against one of those teeth and smack it down. You can sometimes use a hammer if you want, but usually you don't have to worry about it. And then that's nice and tight. The conduit goes right in there, and we tighten this set screw down. Before I do that, though, I'm going to mount this. I'm going to mark where this is going to go and put some anchors in the wall, probably 1 or 2, so that I can anchor this box after I've got it tightened down. So what I'll do is I'll just mark a couple of holes here. Then I can see where I'm going to put the anchors. We'll see if I'm lucky enough that I'm on a stud. That's beautiful. I hit a stud. If I didn't hit a stud, normally I would use one of this style of anchor here. But since there's a stud right there, we're just going to run a drywall screw right into it. Just take the box, put it right back on. I'm just going to use a standard drywall screw here. I like to, on them, if I can get that fuzz off of there, I like to put a washer on it just to give a little bit more surface area against the box to help it from pulling, to keep it from pulling through the metal. And tighten that set screw down. Now we're ready to pull wire. Before we pull the wire and do anything of that nature, we're going to turn off power to the outlets. I know that this trouble light here is plugged into an outlet that's on the same circuit. So if I turn off the circuit, this light will turn off. So it's off. But always verify at the outlet that it is off. All right, so in this case, we've got 2 wires. The ground, which if you're running Romex, the ground wire is the bare copper one. In this case, the conduit system itself is the ground. This white one, this is neutral. Black is load. That means that this one is the zappy one. So if you've got power to this, this is the one that will cause you to get zapped. You can cut this one and it's not going to. Unless, of course, you've got electricity doing a full circuit through it. In this case, I'm using some 14 gauge. Definitely don't go any smaller than 14, which would be a higher number than this. Go with either 14 or 12. There's also a couple of different options. They're solid or stranded. This is stranded. And you might ask, well, what's the benefit of one over the other? I actually prefer solid for where it connects to here. So solid is just a single wire. It's much easier. It doesn't want to come apart when you attach it to like a switch or an outlet. But if you're pulling wire through a conduit, and if you have to go around many bends, stranded goes around it much, much easier than solid. So this is what stranded looks like on the inside. Obviously, it's just a bunch of strands, right? But this is flexible, so if you're having to pull this through much conduit or any distance, these are much easier to pull than solid wire. Okay, so the first thing I do is I take some electrical tape and I wrap it around both wires The important thing is you don't want any wire sticking out this end, because if you do, it's going to grab onto and get hung up on anything and everything it possibly can. Typically at the exit, when it gets down to the other end, it'll hang up on the connector. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to push it down through there, and I'm just going to push it from here and feed it all the way down. Hopefully I'll see it pop out that box down there, and I won't have to go down there and help it along when it gets to the end. Again, I don't have 3 hands, so you're going to have to bear with me. All right, I'm all the way down. I can feel it, but it's hitting down at the bottom, so I'm going to have to go down and grab a hold of it and pull it. All right, so I should be able to reach right up in here, grab onto it. There it is. Give yourself enough here that you've got room to work. Now I've got to go back up top, cut those wires, and connect them. I've got quite a bit of room here in this box, and these are the only wires, so I've got plenty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to right about here and cut them. And then this is the one that runs from the panel over to an outlet over there. So don't cut here or here, cut it right about the middle so you've got plenty of room to work. This one would be the one that would zap me if it was on. Okay, so now I'm just going to strip all of these ends. Now it's pretty easy because they're all color coded, so we're just going to take all 3 of the whites, tie them together, and then all 3 of the blacks and tie them together. Once you've got them tied together, I then wrap electrical tape start on the wires and come up over the nut. It will help prevent that nut from being able to come off. So you can see I wrapped tape, started here, went around several times, and then came up over the wire nut so the nut can't come off. Now we just take these 2, push them back into the box, and then you put a cover plate over the top of this. I don't have a cover plate up here, so I'll have to come back up and do that. Look at the back of an outlet, or the sides. You can see these screws are silver, and these ones are gold. Silver goes to the white wire, gold goes to the load, or the black wire. Now if we were just putting in one outlet, we would just take those 2 wires that come in and attach them to these 2. Since I'm going to be putting in a double gang, I'm going to run a wire from here to here and from here to here. So gold to gold and silver to silver. And then I can take the 2 wires that are coming in, attach those 2 to the one of the outlets. You can see that these screws, it doesn't matter if you use the upper or the lower, they're tied together by this bar here on both sides. These ones are nice. These are the commercial. They're a little bit more expensive. But you can see it's got this little flat bar in there. It's a little bit hard to see, but basically I can just take this wire. I don't have to wrap it around the screw. I can just put it in, tighten it down, and then a bar inside there grabs onto it. Way easier, way less frustrating, especially when you have stranded wire. They don't want to separate out on you. There, so now I have them connected together. Now I can just bring the wires that are in the box and connect them here and here, doesn't matter which outlet, and then put these into the box. Since I'm going to put them in like this, and the wires over on this side, I'll just hook them up to this one. But again, it doesn't really matter. Gold to black, silver to white. If you were running Romex, your bare copper, the ground attaches right here. You'd want to connect those two together. All right, so now I'm not done. I always, because this is now alive here, and I don't appreciate, if I'm in there, whatever. I don't like those things being bare like that. Take tape, wrap it. You have to kind of go underneath these screws a couple times around. But you can see that protects that so that it can't connect with this. It can't connect with the outlet next to it. It can't zap you if you're doing something with a screwdriver. It doesn't, it just helps protect you. Now I always put these in with the ground prong up. And, a lot of people put them in this way. I put it in this way just in the slight chance that something electrical, something conductive falls down below, say, a plug that's in. It can't connect between these two. It would hit that ground plug first. So, it would cause it to angle off. I've never had it happen. Probably never would happen, but, just one more thing to think of. Of course, I wasn't thinking before I brought this all the way up here because of the type of cover I'm using. This one here, I should have mounted those into this cover before I got here, just to make my life a little easier. In a normal situation where you're not using this type of a box, these screws will just go right into some tabs on the box. But in this case, this goes on here. This goes on here, and then these screws go into where that is. So it's a little bit different. I also have to take these ears, these little holes here, off. Normally you wouldn't have to do that either. So that will then fit in here, but I have to take these screws out. This cover comes with screws. They're a lot shorter than the ones that come out of the outlet. So then this will go in here. Screw goes through, and then it has a nut on these ones that go on the back. You can see this is a much bigger pain in the butt, but for going into a garage, I like these face plates a lot better. Just coil this up. Do one full loop here, just so that I can get them in there. All right, it's installed. Now we just need to test. There we go. Success. Outlet installed. Thanks for watching.